Maya pushed open the glass door of the small pizza shop, letting in a rush of cold air behind her. The bell above the door rang softly. It was early evening, the kind of hour when families stopped by for food after a long day. The lights inside were warm, and the smell of fresh bread filled the room. Leo walked beside her, trying to look older than his years. Nora followed closely, holding Maya's coat with both hands. Their shoes were worn, and their jackets were thin, but they stayed close and quiet. They had learned how to behave in places like this. Maya guided them toward the counter and smiled at the cashier. Her smile was polite, careful, and tired. She glanced at the menu hanging above, even though she had already counted the money in her purse twice before coming in. Leo leaned forward, studying the pictures of pizza slices like they were part of a puzzle. Nora whispered that she wanted cheese. Maya nodded gently and brushed Nora's hair back from her face. When it was their turn, Maya asked for the smallest pizza. Her voice was soft but clear. The cashier typed the order and said the price. It was not a high number, but Maya felt it land heavily on her chest. She opened her purse and tipped it upside down on the counter. Coins slid out slowly. Some rolled a little before stopping. The sound of metal tapping the surface made her feel exposed, like everyone could hear how little she had. She began counting, 1 coin at a time. Her lips moved silently as she added the numbers in her head. Leo watched closely, trying to help without being asked. Nora rested her chin on the counter, her eyes fixed on the coins like they might disappear. Maya counted once, then again. She gathered the coins into a small pile and pushed them forward, then hesitated. She pulled a few back and counted again. Her fingers trembled just enough for Leo to notice. The cashier waited patiently. There was no anger on their face, only understanding. Still, Maya felt embarrassed. She swallowed and asked if the price would be lower without one topping. The cashier nodded and changed the order. The new total was said aloud. It was still a little more than what Maya had. Maya took a slow breath. She felt heat rise to her face. She looked down at the counter and apologized, even though she had done nothing wrong. She began separating the coins again, hoping she had made a mistake. A few steps away, near the drink fridge, a large man stood watching. He had been there since before Maya entered. His black jacket was thick and worn, covered in patches that told stories most people did not want to hear. His boots were heavy, and his arms were marked by years of hard living. Most customers avoided him. Some glanced at him quickly and then looked away. He was not loud. He did not move much. But his presence filled the space around him. The man's eyes stayed on Maya. He noticed how carefully she counted. He noticed the children standing too close together, like they were trying to make themselves smaller. He noticed the way Maya apologized for needing less. Something about the scene felt familiar to him, even if he could not remember exactly why. Maya finally stopped counting. She knew the truth now. She did not have enough. She gently pulled the coins back toward herself and told the cashier she would come back another day. Leo's shoulders dropped. Nora looked confused and asked if they were not eating tonight. Maya smiled at her and said they would find something else. Her smile stayed, but her eyes were heavy. The man by the fridge shifted his weight. The floor creaked under his boots. He took a step forward, then stopped. He was not used to stepping into other people's problems. His life had taught him to mind his own business. But he kept seeing the coins in his mind. He kept hearing the small sound they made as they hit the counter. Maya gathered the coins into her purse, her movements slow and careful, like she was afraid of spilling hope along with the money. She thanked the cashier and turned to leave. As she did, the man spoke. His voice was low, steady, and calm. He asked the cashier to wait a moment. Everyone in the shop went quiet. Maya froze. She turned slowly, unsure of what was happening. Her first instinct was fear, then confusion. The man walked toward the counter. Up close, he looked even bigger, but his eyes were not hard. They were focused and serious. He placed a bill on the counter, flat and firm. It was more than enough. He told the cashier to put the order back the way it was. Maya shook her head quickly. She said she could not accept it. Her voice was polite but firm. She had learned to refuse help before it could hurt her pride. The man did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He simply said the kids deserved a warm meal. He said it like a fact, not an opinion. Leo looked up at him, surprised. Nora smiled without thinking. The cashier finished the order quietly. The receipt printed. The pizza would be ready soon. Maya stood still, unsure of what to say. Her eyes filled, but she blinked the feeling away. She whispered thank you, her voice barely louder than the bell on the door. The man nodded once and stepped back to his place by the fridge. He did not wait for praise. He did not expect anything in return. As Maya and her children waited, the smell of baking pizza filled the room again. This time, it felt different. It felt like relief. And for the first time that day, Maya allowed herself to breathe. The pizza box was warm when the cashier placed it on the counter. Steam rose gently when the lid shifted for a moment. The smell spread through the shop, rich and comforting. Nora smiled wide, her hunger forgetting its patience. Leo stood a little taller, like the room felt safer now. Maya held the box carefully, as if it were something fragile. Her hands still shook, but not from worry anymore. She turned to thank the man again, but he had already stepped away, leaning back near the fridge like nothing important had happened. Maya guided the children to a small table by the window. The glass was slightly fogged from the cold outside. Leo pulled out a chair for Nora before sitting down himself. Maya watched them with quiet pride. She opened the box slowly. The cheese stretched as she lifted the first slice. Nora clapped softly, then stopped herself when she remembered where they were. Maya smiled and handed her a napkin. They ate slowly. Every bite felt earned. Maya watched her children more than her own plate. She made sure they were full before taking another piece herself. Across the room, the man watched without staring. He pretended to read the drink labels, but his attention kept drifting back. He noticed how Maya broke her slice in half so the kids could have more. He noticed how she laughed softly at something Nora said, like the sound surprised her. He felt something tighten in his chest. It was not pity. It was memory. A long time ago, he had been a boy sitting at a table much like this one. His mother had done the same thing, giving more than she took. He had forgotten that feeling for years, buried under noise and hard choices. When the family finished eating, Maya closed the box and wiped the table clean. She gathered the napkins and thanked the cashier once more. Before leaving, she turned toward the man again. She walked slowly, careful not to seem demanding. She stopped a few steps away and spoke softly. She said thank you again, not just for the food, but for stepping in when she needed it most. She said it was a hard season for her. She did not give details. She did not complain. The man listened. He nodded once. He told her she did not owe him anything. He said sometimes people just help because they can. Maya hesitated, then asked his name. He paused before answering. He told her his name was Mark. Maya smiled and said her name, then introduced the children. Leo shook Mark's hand seriously. Nora waved with both hands. Mark felt something change in that moment. Not something loud. Something steady. Maya and the kids left the shop. The bell rang again. The cold air rushed in and out. Mark watched them walk down the street, the pizza box held tight between them like a shared treasure. He stayed where he was for a long moment after they were gone. Outside, Maya walked slowly. The streetlights flickered on. Leo talked about school, about a project he was worried about. Nora skipped ahead, humming quietly. Maya listened, but her mind kept returning to the man in the shop. She was used to people looking away. She was used to being invisible. What stayed with her was not the money. It was the respect. The next morning, Maya woke early. She packed the last slice of pizza into Leo's lunch bag. She made oatmeal for Nora. The apartment was small but clean. Light filtered through thin curtains. Later that day, Maya went to the community center. She had heard there might be work cleaning offices in the evenings. She filled out forms and waited. Mark spent his morning differently. He rode his bike through quiet streets, the engine steady beneath him. He stopped at a small repair shop and talked with the owner. He asked about odd jobs. He was not looking for trouble anymore. He was looking for purpose. Days passed. One afternoon, Maya took the kids to the park. Leo kicked a worn ball around while Nora played near the swings. Maya sat on a bench, watching, her coat pulled tight. She noticed a familiar bike pull up near the curb. Mark removed his helmet and looked around. When he saw her, he raised a hand in greeting. Maya stood, surprised but not afraid. The kids ran over. Mark asked if they were doing well. Maya said they were. She told him she had found part-time work. Her voice held relief. Mark nodded. He said he was glad. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small bag. Inside were apples and bread. He said he had extra. He said it was no trouble. Maya accepted, her pride balanced by gratitude. She thanked him again. They talked for a few minutes. About the weather. About the neighborhood. About nothing important. But as Mark walked away, Maya felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt seen. That night, as Maya tucked the kids into bed, Leo asked if Mark was a friend. Maya thought about it for a moment, then said yes. And somewhere across town, Mark sat alone with a cup of coffee, thinking about a small pizza shop and how one simple moment had reminded him who he wanted to be. The weeks moved slowly, but they moved forward. Maya settled into her new routine, one day at a time. In the evenings, she cleaned office rooms after people had gone home. The work was quiet. The floors shined when she finished, and the smell of soap followed her home. It was not easy work, but it paid enough to keep food on the table. Leo adjusted to school again. He worked harder, staying late to finish assignments. He wanted to help his mother, even if he did not know how. Nora spent her days drawing pictures on old paper Maya brought home from work. She drew houses, suns, and people holding hands. Mark stayed in the background of their lives, never pushing, never asking for more than a greeting. Sometimes he would see them at the park. Sometimes he would pass by the street where they lived. Each time, he waved or nodded, nothing more. One afternoon, Maya returned from work earlier than usual. The building manager had closed the offices for repairs. She felt worried at first, then relieved to have unexpected time with her children. She decided to take them to the local market. It was a small place with wooden stands and friendly faces. People sold bread, fruit, and handmade items. The air smelled like spices and fresh produce. Leo helped carry the bags. Nora asked many questions. Maya counted her money carefully, but this time she did not feel panic. She knew what she could afford. As they walked past one of the stalls, Maya heard her name. She turned and saw Mark standing near a table of old tools. He smiled and walked over. They talked about the market. Mark pointed out a baker he trusted. He bought the kids small rolls and handed them over like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maya thanked him, but this time her voice was steady. They sat on a bench near the market edge and shared the food. The kids laughed at a street musician playing nearby. The moment felt light, like something that could happen again. Mark told Maya a little about himself. He spoke carefully, choosing his words. He said he had lived a rough life when he was younger. He said he had made mistakes and learned from them. He did not explain everything. Maya listened without judgment. She had learned that everyone carried a story, even if they did not share it fully. She told Mark about her days cleaning offices. She said it was honest work. She said she was proud to do it. Mark nodded. He said pride mattered more than money. That evening, after the market closed, they went their separate ways. But something had shifted. The space between them felt smaller. A few days later, Leo came home with a note from school. There was a science fair coming up. Students were expected to build a small project. The materials cost money. Maya read the note twice. She felt worry press against her again. She smiled at Leo and said they would figure it out. That night, after the kids slept, Maya sat at the table and counted her money. It was not enough. The next morning, Maya ran into Mark outside her building. She hesitated, then told him about the science project. She was careful not to ask for help. Mark listened. He thought for a moment. He said he knew someone who ran a small workshop. He said there might be spare materials Leo could use. Maya agreed to meet him later that week. They went together to the workshop. It was filled with wood, wires, and tools. The owner was kind and patient. He gave Leo pieces of wood and small parts, explaining how they worked. Leo's eyes lit up. He asked questions non-stop. Mark stood back and watched, his arms crossed, a small smile on his face. Over the next few evenings, Leo worked on his project at the kitchen table. Nora watched and offered help, even when it was not needed. Maya made tea and cleaned up the small messes. Mark stopped by once, bringing an extra tool and some advice. He stayed only a short time. When the day of the science fair came, Maya stood in the school hall with pride in her chest. Leo explained his project clearly. His teacher smiled and nodded. Leo did not win a prize, but he gained something else. Confidence. On the way home, he said he wanted to build more things. That night, Maya thanked Mark quietly. She told him that his help had meant more than he knew. Mark shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. He said Leo had done the work. As spring approached, life did not become perfect. There were still bills. There were still long nights. But there was also laughter. There was support. There was kindness. And sometimes, that was enough to keep moving forward. Spring arrived slowly, like it was unsure if it was welcome. The air grew softer. The streets looked brighter. Maya noticed little changes, like birds returning to the trees and children staying outside longer. But life still tested her. One afternoon, Maya got a call from the community center. The manager told her that the evening cleaning work might be reduced for a while. A company was changing contracts, and fewer hours would be available. The manager spoke kindly, but the message hit hard. Maya thanked them and ended the call. She sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the wall. Less work meant less money. Less money meant harder choices. She tried not to panic, but her hands turned cold. When Leo came home, Maya smiled like nothing was wrong. She asked about his day. She listened carefully as he spoke about school and friends. Nora ran around the room, holding one of her drawings like it was a prize. Maya did not want to burden them. She wanted them to feel safe. So she kept her worry inside. Later that night, after the kids slept, Maya sat at the table again. She wrote numbers on paper. Rent, food, electricity, school needs. The list felt heavier than her body. She looked at the small jar where she kept coins. It was not full. The next morning, Leo's teacher sent another note. It was about a school trip. The payment deadline was coming soon. It was not required, but it would mean a lot to Leo. He had talked about it for days. Maya stared at the paper and felt her throat tighten. She wanted to say yes. She wanted her son to have normal memories. She folded the note and put it in her pocket. That afternoon, Maya went to the market again, hoping to find cheaper food. She held Nora's hand while Leo walked beside her. They stopped at a fruit stand. Maya carefully picked the least expensive options. She was reaching for a bag when she heard a loud noise behind her. A car had slammed its brakes near the curb, and someone shouted. People stepped back quickly. Nora jumped and squeezed Maya's hand tighter. Maya turned and saw a small chaos forming. A man had dropped a box of glass bottles, and they shattered on the ground. The sound was sharp. People moved away to avoid stepping on the pieces. Maya pulled the kids back, protecting them. She felt her heart race. Nothing terrible happened, but the shock made her feel weak. She hated how quickly fear returned to her body. Then she saw Mark. He walked through the crowd calmly, like he knew how to move in tense moments. He spoke to the man who dropped the box and helped guide people around the broken glass. He waved a shop worker over and helped clear the area. His actions were steady, controlled, and simple. Maya watched him from a distance. She realized something important. Mark did not chase trouble. He prevented it. When the area was safe again, Mark noticed Maya and walked over. He asked if they were okay. Maya nodded, still catching her breath. Leo said Mark helped everyone. Nora agreed with a serious nod. Mark smiled lightly, then asked if Maya needed help carrying her bags. Maya hesitated, then agreed. She did not want to rely on him too much, but she also knew she could not carry everything alone. As they walked, Maya's folded note slipped from her pocket. It fell to the sidewalk. Mark noticed and picked it up before she could. Maya froze for a moment, then gently took it from him. She tried to hide it, but Mark had already seen the words at the top. He did not push. He only asked, in a calm voice, if everything was okay. Maya tried to laugh. She said it was just a school thing. She said it was fine. But her eyes told the truth. Mark stopped walking for a moment. He looked at her, not like a stranger, but like someone who understood. He said he did not want to make her uncomfortable. He said he would never step over her boundaries. Then he said something unexpected. He told her about a local program that helped families with school expenses. He said he had heard about it through the workshop owner. He offered to give her the information, nothing more. Maya felt relief and embarrassment at the same time. She nodded slowly. Mark wrote the address on a small piece of paper and handed it to her. He said she could go when she was ready. He said there was no shame in getting support. Maya held the paper tightly. The words felt like a door cracking open. That evening, Maya went to the address Mark gave her. It was a small office with posters on the wall and chairs in the waiting area. A woman at the desk welcomed her warmly. Maya filled out forms, again and again. She explained her work hours. She explained her kids' needs. She felt tired, but she did not feel judged. A week later, she received an answer. The program could help with Leo's trip cost and provide a small food support card for a short time. Maya cried quietly in the kitchen, not from sadness, but from relief. Leo hugged her when he found out. He told her it was okay, even if he did not go. Maya told him he would go. She would make sure of it. And Mark, watching from a distance, felt something settle in his heart. He had not saved anyone. He had simply pointed someone toward help. But sometimes, that was enough to change a whole season. The morning of the school trip arrived with clear skies. Leo woke up before his alarm and dressed carefully. He checked his bag twice, making sure everything was there. Maya watched him from the doorway, her heart full and tight at the same time. She packed his lunch with care, adding a small note she hoped he would read later. Nora sat at the table swinging her legs, excited even though she was not going on the trip. She kept asking when Leo would come back. Maya walked Leo to the bus stop. Other parents stood nearby, talking and laughing. Maya felt nervous, but she stood tall. When Leo hugged her goodbye, she whispered that she was proud of him. He smiled wide and stepped onto the bus. As the bus pulled away, Maya felt a mix of joy and fear leave her body. She stood there for a moment, then turned and walked home with Nora. Later that day, Maya cleaned the apartment from top to bottom. It helped her think. She opened windows and let fresh air in. For the first time in a long while, the space felt lighter. In the afternoon, there was a knock on the door. Maya opened it and saw Mark standing there, holding a small paper bag. He looked unsure, like he was checking if he had done the right thing by coming. Maya invited him in. Nora ran over and greeted him like an old friend. Mark explained that he had baked bread with the workshop owner and brought some to share. He placed it on the table and stepped back. They sat and talked while Nora drew pictures nearby. The conversation was easy, not rushed, not heavy. Mark shared more about his past. He talked about years spent moving from place to place. He talked about mistakes and lessons. He talked about how he used to think strength meant standing alone. Maya listened. She did not interrupt. She understood that telling these things was not easy. She shared her own story in return. She spoke about raising the kids alone, about fear, about hope, about learning to ask for help without feeling small. They did not try to fix each other. They simply listened. When Leo came home later that evening, he burst through the door with stories and excitement. He talked about the trip non-stop. Maya and Mark listened, smiling. Leo stopped suddenly and asked if Mark would stay for dinner. Mark looked at Maya. She nodded. They ate together at the small table. The food was simple, but the laughter filled the room. Nora spilled her drink and everyone laughed instead of getting upset. After dinner, Mark helped wash dishes. Maya dried them. It felt natural, like a rhythm that had been waiting to happen. As the evening grew quiet, Mark stood to leave. He thanked Maya for the meal. He told the kids goodbye. At the door, Maya hesitated, then spoke. She told Mark that what he had done for them was more than help. It had reminded her that kindness still existed, that people could step in without asking for something back. Mark looked down for a moment, then met her eyes. He said meeting them had helped him too. It had given him direction. They stood there for a second longer, then Mark left. Life did not suddenly become easy after that. There were still hard days. There were still moments when money was tight and energy ran low. But something had changed. Maya found steadier work through the community center. It was not perfect, but it was consistent. Leo continued building small projects and dreaming bigger dreams. Nora filled the apartment with drawings and laughter. Mark stayed in their lives, not as a hero, not as a rescuer, but as a steady presence. Someone who showed up when needed and stepped back when not. Months later, on a warm evening, they all sat together in the park. The sun dipped low. The air was calm. Maya watched her children play and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Peace. She thought back to that night in the pizza shop. The coins on the counter. The fear in her chest. The man who had seen her without judging. She realized something important. It was never about the pizza. It was about being seen. Being respected. Being reminded that even in hard times, people could choose kindness. And sometimes, that choice could change lives in quiet, lasting ways. The world did not need grand gestures. Sometimes, all it needed was someone willing to step forward and care.